All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to In the Pocket Podcast. I am your host, SOU to the P, joined as always by my brother, Big Mike. What's going on, dog?
Hey, man, definitely excited. You know, I had to get the studio redesign going on while we were on a little hiatus, man, but I'm definitely glad to be back in the building.
Yeah, man, there's a whole lot of going on right now. So y'all bear with us. It's gonna be a long one, but we're gonna try to touch on a few things. First thing that happened, man, we got so many transactions that have happened over like the last month, man. So many people got a bunch of money. Some of them we were like, Other ones were like, yeah, it's about time. Just some notable ones that I wanted to pick out. Lael Collins is back in Dallas, and I don't know if you guys know, Dallas could definitely use some linemen to keep their quarterback upright. Dak hasn't finished out the season. I want to say at least the last two seasons he hasn't been able to finish out the season. So them being able to get their linemen together is a big deal. In addition, Sauce Gardner gets the absolute bag, as well as Garrett Wilson. So the Jets doing unjets like things and taking care of their star players, locking them up to long-term contracts early. Some people may say, oh, these contracts are too big for those people, but I'm telling you, just by the market next year, those are going to look like very, very team-friendly deals compared to what's coming down the pipeline for wide receivers and stuff. I know as a Rams fan, I'm personally dreading us having to do Puka Nacua. Mike, what were some other ones that you noticed that some deals that got done?
I know Zach Allen, he should have been a Pro Bowl last year. He was a first-team All-Pro, but didn't make the Pro Bowl, which is wild. But he got $102 million with 60-something guaranteed. That was a big deal for us, some continuity there. Garrett Bowles re-upped on his deal a little bit. The Dolphins, me and you were talking about this one a little bit earlier. The Dolphins re-signing their D tackle. He was kind of an underrated younger guy. Had 10 sacks last year. He got $66 million with 40-something guaranteed. I think that's a big move because they've had so many moving pieces this year. So, I mean, there's been a lot of deals, man. And, you know, we're always happy when guys are getting their bags, man. So shout out to all these players. And we're going to talk about a few more, I'm sure. But there's a lot of bags that have been getting got.
Well, I know something that you guys aren't happy about going on your division is the Raiders locking up Colton Miller, protecting that blind side for Geno Smith or whoever's going to be under center for the Raiders for the next few years. I thought that was a smart move for them, locking up that key critical piece of the offensive line as Pete Carroll continues to put his stamp on the team over there in Vegas. And then there was who was it? It was San Francisco signing every wide receiver that is in the free agent list on Madden. Equinemius St. Brown, Robbie Chosen Anderson is signing with them as well. And I saw they added another person. Sorry, guys, let me check my notes. Yeah, Malik Knowles and Andy Isabella. So and Marquez Callaway as well. So 49ers clearly looking for some stability at the wide receiver position with questions about Ayuk's recovery. They're still wanting to take it easy with Ricky Pearsall as well as he's continuing to grow into a wide receiver while still, you know, getting on track from being shot at last season. It's nothing to it's nothing to joke about. But yeah, you could tell San Francisco wants to push. They want to, you know, get the ball down the field and hopefully be a lot more versatile and explosive than they were this last season. Also, in terms of contracts, it was a pretty significant trade that got done. Steelers and the Dolphins being trade partners. Now, I can't lie to you, bro. I didn't see this one coming. Never in a million years would I have seen Jalen Ramsey going to Pittsburgh, especially with Jalen being as vocal as he has been about always wanting to play in a warm climate. I ain't gonna lie though. I seen him in the threads. He looked kind of cold in the the gold and the black.
Absolutely, and that move with their GM, they have the con artist, as he's happily named. It's not normal Steelers, right? It's not Steelers as normal where we're going to draft, develop, etc. And again, shout out to TJ Watt. That's one we didn't mention. TJ Watt got his bag. That's a big bag. Massive bag. But saying that to say, like, that defense, man, offensively, we saw what they did earlier in the offseason. DK Metcalf, drafting running backs, etc. They in their line coming back, I think will be much improved with the exact same line they had last year. And then they shored up some of the stuff at defense. Corner was a weakness. Like in reality, like, and this is no shade to Joey Porter, his style of play is very physical and leads him to getting beat sometimes in some penalties. So being able to shore up that other side with Jalen Ramsey still a top 5 corner while Joey Porter's developing, and that'll definitely help out his development. Was a massive thing, and they brought back a tight end that they really wanted as well, right? So they definitely have been making some moves, and they were putting themselves in a good situation. And it's just training camp. I know we get excited about training camp because we miss football, but Aaron Rodgers has been throwing absolute dimes, man. Like there's something that nobody can ever say about Aaron Rodgers is he isn't one of the best throwers of the football ever, because he absolutely is. And I think that offense is going to be on a different level this year. It's going to be one of the best offenses since the Killer Bees back in the day, in my opinion.
Well, look, man, two things can be true at the same time. Things that you want to hear in training camp, that your starting quarterback looks good, but also things that you don't want to hear in training camp is like, yeah, your starting quarterback looks good, and that's the last time you hear it for the season, that he looks good in that space. So, we're hoping that we're not getting the best of Aaron Rodgers for training camp exclusively, hoping that that's going to translate into the rest of the season, as well as, some other quarterbacks around the league that we've been hearing about. What do you think about Minka Fitzpatrick headed back to Miami?
I think that's going to be good for Miami. They have a lot of needs realistically. But the thing with him is he's such a versatile piece. As good as Jalen is, Minka's more versatile than he is. He can line up safety, both safety slots. He can line up in the box. He can line up at corner, in the slot, whatever. So I think them, as they're going through this build and they're developing these pieces, having somebody that versatile to be able to go back there and bring a little bit of stability back there is going to be good. They went out and signed a few other corners as well to help shore that up. To shore that up as well. But I think I like that move for them. I don't think that's going to put them in a situation where they're going to have a winning season, but I think it'll be a lot better for their defense than not having them and sending Jalen Ramsey out.
Yeah, and with respect to Jalen and his versatility, I know in his time with the Rams, we had him playing some of the star position, which is also like a pseudo safety or a nickel corner, and playing down in the box. There's reports coming out of Pittsburgh that that's kind of where he's been slotted in right now. And again, I don't want to take anything away from Jalen. Love Jalen. I'm wearing his jersey right now. But we're lying if we say that he hasn't lost a step in terms of the speed.
Right.
And I think him playing more of a, box safety, things of that nature, I think that's going to allow him to still perform at a high level while, commanding that defensive secondary without him getting absolutely torched by some of these younger, faster receivers. So looking forward to see what Pittsburgh's going to put on display. I still have a lot of questions. Like you said, as good as these names sound and look on paper and in training camp, we got to see what happens when we kick off here in September in a few weeks. Is all of these brand names, are they going to translate to the field, or is this just going to be another above 500 season for Mike Tomlin, and this offense is going to fizzle out come playoff times, or they'll just end up missing the playoffs in a very, very competitive AFC North, especially when they're over-indexing financially on the defensive end, as Steelers tend to do. So moving on, talking about some more transactions, some transactions that aren't happening. Scary Terry wants out of DC. That's a situation that it seemed like everything was good. He was really excited when they brought Deebo Samuel over. There were fans that were kind of excited at the potential of running, Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel on the field at the same time with the dynamic young quarterback Jaden Daniels sitting in Dan Quinn and what's our guy's name?
Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury's offense for year 2. You would hope that they were going to take a step forward. I had a question when they brought over Deebo, though, right? Because Deebo is going to be owed some money at the end of the season. He's technically playing for another contract. Is there room to pay both of them? Yeah, I believe there is room to pay both of them. The question is, do they really want to? Also, when you think about where Deebo is coming from San Francisco, and you think about who's the general manager over at the Commanders, they have connections and ties that go back to San Francisco. So if you're Terry McLaurin and you've been you've demonstrated your value to this franchise. Arguably, you outside of Jaden Daniels now, you might be the most valuable player on this roster. For them not to sit down at the table and get a deal done with you, or even be speaking the same language, I feel like it's disrespectful. And if I'm Terry McLaurin, I feel like, man, did they bring Debo in? Am I even their guy anymore? Because Adam Peters and Debo Samuel very clearly have a pre-existing relationship. So am I even their guy anymore? Is this something that they want to do? Problem for Terry McLaurin is at this point in time, and you're probably not going to see it revisited until the trade deadline. I don't know too many teams that can afford to pay him, that need him. That's the thing, because he's going to demand a salary of, what do you want to say? Probably what, 31, 35 million a year.
Yep.
So
yeah, I think, and I don't think, I think the thing with him is he wants to be competitive, right? That's one of the first competitive teams that he's been on last year, and they're on an upward trajectory. And again, as good as Debo is, he's had an issue staying healthy, which is why San Francisco was so apt to get rid of him. Saying that to say, though, you got a young quarterback right now who's under a rookie contract. You can afford to pay him. And again, they make it work with the NFL all the time. Like, we look at the salary cap, but it's kind of like fictitious, it feels like. Mm-hmm. It's essentially just kicking the can down the road. But Terry McLaurin is going to make sure that offense is still dynamic. They will not be as dynamic with Debo for 10 to 12 games probably, because that's about what he's been playing or less. And no Terry McLaurin. So realistically, they do need him there. That makes their offense completely different. That makes their offense a real threat. Obviously, Jaden's still there, and he'll be there. And as long as he's there, they're going to be able to compete. I believe that he is an absolute dog. But saying that to say Terry McLaurin and him had a connection that was phenomenal. Adding Debo to that is phenomenal, I think. But Debo's not going to be able to replace the value that Terry McLaurin has. So I don't know. I mean, timing of the deal, I think maybe is the thing with the team. I'm not exactly sure why he feels the way he feels right now. But there's been a lot of bags that have been got, and some of the people that have been getting these bags, Terry McLaurin has been out producing consistently with far inferior quarterback play until last year. So that's a guy I would imagine they're going to make sure they lock up before the season goes away. Obviously, like, a good example is Myles Garrett, right, with the Browns. I want to get out of here. I don't want to do this ever. And then they get through a bag at him, and they're fine again, right? Money cures a lot of L's. So I hope that they can get that done for their sake. But I wouldn't feel as confident about that progression for that team if their best receiver isn't back.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. If I'm a Commanders fan, this isn't one of those things that you can just brush off and say, well, if he doesn't want to be here, then let him go. Like, you guys are foolish to think that he's so easily replaceable within that offense. And again, you made a great point about Debo, right? Like, whatever you feel about Debo, however you land on him as a player, the fact remains he has had trouble staying on the field. And even in the seasons where he's been healthy for the majority of the season and into the extended playoff runs, we know that as it gets to the back half of the season, he's getting banged up, bumped and bruises, and his performance is not the same at the end of the season as it is at the start of the season, as his body continues to deteriorate. And he's getting older. He's not getting younger. So it's not like these things are going to magically cure themselves and go away. I think this is the reality of what Debo Samuel is right now. So we'll see what that situation looks like as the season continues to play out. There's another situation, though, that's developing still in the NFC East, and I think it's kind of just spiraled out of control, and it's only being inflamed by comments of Jerry Jones. But Micah Parsons has officially demanded a trade out of Dallas. He took to social media to pen a long letter thanking the Dallas fans, the Dallas community, talking about how it was always his dream growing up as a kid with his dad to cheer on the Cowboys and maybe, potentially get drafted and be able to play for the Star. But he's saying he no longer wants to be a part of that organization. He no longer wants to wear the Star on his helmet. He's tired of being spoken ill of. He's tired of being disrespected for laying his body on the line for his fans, for the team. And I think he has a lot of valid points in his argument about, what I say is him being called out unjustly by ownership, by Jerry Jones. And Mike, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to Jerry's presser the other day when he was talking about the Micah Parsons situation, but I don't know what planet he's on.
Yeah, he sounded like I'm like, I mean, I think the thing with Jerry Jones is he always wants to let you know who's in charge. I'm the boss. I run I own the Cowboys, etc. He was very casual about negotiations. When this is a player who wants to be there, it should have been the easiest deal to get done. And realistically, they're going to cost themselves, because this time last year it would have cost about $6 million less a season to sign Micah. So over 4 years, that's $24 million, right? It's going to cost them more for sure, at least $24 million. On a player who is second in sacks through this point in his career in NFL history, behind Lawrence Taylor, I believe. So it's like it doesn't make any sense, again, with him missing 6 games. So imagine if you played that 6 games last year and Jerry Jones is still stuck on that, like, well, it's back injury. That's because he's holding in. He's showing up, so he's not getting fined. And that's a player that I don't know how many teams wouldn't want to sign a top 3 rusher who is in his mid-20s, and his ceiling is going here after what he's done. So, like, Jerry doing this, I feel like it's Cowboys and Jerry. And I don't think Michael will get traded, right? I don't believe that'll happen. They have 3 more years of control. The 5th-year option this year, 2 more franchise tags that they could do. Micah, if he's serious about wanting to get out of there or something different or getting his bag, he has to be willing to hold out till week 8. If he comes back by week 8, this still counts as a vested year, etc. But he will be missing out on some money. So we'll see how serious it gets. I just think that Jerry likes his dynamic of, I'm in charge, I own the Cowboys, I'm used to these negotiations, this is what I said. But in my opinion, and not even just my opinion, but like negotiating with Micah without his agent there is that's completely inappropriate, right? There's a power dynamic that's there. And Micah said he went to go talk to him about leadership, and Jerry starts throwing out numbers. So Micah starts talking to him about, in general, what he wants in his contract, and then he hasn't answered the phone for his agent. And then he says, he brings up Dez, throws Dez under the bus. Like last time, I negotiated with an agent, it was Jay-Z, and they represented Dez, and Dez wasn't sure. He said, I'm going to be on time, this, and that, and Dez wasn't on time. He threw Dez under the bus, right? So it's like Dez had nothing to do with it, but it kind of lets you know Jerry's mentality on these contracts. He just thinks that, like, everybody wants to be a Cowboy, I'll get everything done. And the reality is that's one of the reasons their franchise hasn't moved forward as quickly as they could have, right? Signing Micah should have happened last year. It would have saved them a ton of money, but Jerry just loves to let his nuts hang and show that he's the boss, and I think that's going to set that team back. The players on the team obviously are with Micah. A lot of them change their profile pictures to Micah, etc., which is good camaraderie for the team. But Jerry, being a distraction that he normally is going to take away from what they could potentially do on the field.
Yeah, I'm on Micah's side here. And normally when we get into these kind of situations, right, you can kind of understand the perspective from ownership or from the front office. Here, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't understand Jerry's comments. And yes, we know Jerry is a character. We know that he wants to flex his power. He wants you guys to know that who's in control. He wants you to know that, yes, he is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys have a certain prestige about their brand and things of that nature. But Jerry, this ain't, we're not stuck in the 90s, bro. We're not in the mid 90s. We're like, there's a way to conduct business, and not even the way to conduct business. I think man to man, you attacking a player who's putting his body on the line to make sure that your team is achieving, W's and trying to get to a championship that you have not seen since the mid 90s. Like, to criticize that player for getting injured on a play, because it's not like he had a skiing accident or something, right? Or like a 4th of July incident. Like, he got injured, a legitimate football injury, laying his body out there on a play. So for you to be up in the press conference and saying, well, Micah has to want to get paid, and even if he wants to get paid, I need his back to be okay. Like, he can't be injured. He missed 6 games last year. Like, tell them why he missed 6 games.
Right.
The way that Jerry speaks about it, he makes it sound like Micah decided to take 6 games off in the middle of the season and that he
go to Cabo or something.
Yeah. And again, you saw CD Lamb even tweeted, like, why do we have to do this drama again? Like, this is just the Dallas Cowboys way. He's like, just pay the man. Like, stop dragging this stuff out. We saw the situation play out with Dak Prescott. You even saw it happening with CD Lamb. Now we're seeing it play out with Micah. And, we still have Trayvon Diggs. I know he's coming back off the injury, but Trayvon Diggs still has a deal that potentially to get done. And I don't know, if you're Dallas, like, that's one of your better secondary people, one of your better DBs. You're going to have to eventually do that deal for him. If I'm a player in the league, why would I want to go to Dallas outside of the brand? Like, I get it. There's no taxes and stuff in the state of Texas and things of that nature, but there is an ascending team in Houston. Like, if I'm going to go play for a Texas team, I'm probably going to consider trying to go play for the Texans at this point, because they seem to be better run, at least at the current moment. And they have a coach and an owner that seem to respect players and want to sit down and actually talk and go about business the proper way. When your agent is David Mulugeta, who I'm going to argue as one of the best agents, if not the best agent in the league right now.
Absolutely.
Like, I can also understand why Jerry doesn't want to talk to him, because David's going to get the money for him and his client. Like, that's what's going to happen. You're not going to get no deal. You're not going to get no breaks. He's going to absolutely get top of the market. And because you've been so stubborn and you want to play this game of chicken, you're going to end up overpaying way more than you had to. Like you said, Micah should have been done last year. He could have got in front of Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Max Crosby, like 3 big names that are significantly older than Micah, still putting up numbers, but don't necessarily have the upside of Micah. Why wouldn't you have gotten the deal done early? Yeah, it would have been it would have looked crazy last year, but this year, Jerry Jones would have looked like a genius. So again, from a personal standpoint, I love the dysfunction in Dallas. That's just me. If they never win anything for as long as I live and as long as, my kids live, and their kids and my grandkids and, great grandkids, then I'll be super fine with that. But this is a franchise that you can't convince me is serious about winning championships, because the way they continue to do business is not how business is done in the year 2025. So, and if people are just waiting for Jerry to be up out of here, I got bad news for you. I don't think his son is going to be that much better. I think
he will.
Well, we'll find out one of these years. We'll find out. I'm not trying to rush Jerry to the grave yet, but we will get a chance to find out here. And then, and the last thing, this is a developing situation that just kind of started earlier today. James Cook has been looking for a contract in Buffalo this entire offseason. He's made a bunch of comments about the value that he knows that he provides to Buffalo. And to be fair, under Sean McDermott, the Buffalo Bills have been unsuccessful in establishing the run until James Cook came along. Mm-hmm. And their run game was Josh Allen. With them continuing to extend Josh Allen and put a lot of money behind him, like, that team goes as Josh goes, you can't afford to have your franchise quarterback continue to put it out there every single game, and he cannot be the leading rusher. He's getting older. He's going to get banged up, and we saw what happened. Like, guys, we've seen this before. If you don't believe me, his name was Cam Newton. Cannon of an arm, and I'm not saying that Josh isn't better than Cam, but we've seen this, right? Big physical quarterback that didn't avoid contact, ran over a lot of people in his prime, and then fell off a cliff. The degradation was not slow. It was quick and it was sudden, because you took away his superpower, which was his mobility. And I think, Josh's escapability combined with that cannon of an arm, if you took away the mobility on a Buffalo offensive line, which, by the way, hasn't been great under Sean McDermott.
They've been good the last couple of years, though.
They've been decent. They've been decent, but I think I don't want to confuse how good their offensive line has been with, like, oh, this is how they've actually been playing, versus defenses being wary of the threat that Josh is going to move and scramble. So you can't be as aggressive as you would like to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think having a stable run game outside of your quarterback always has to be the thing, because that's going to wear your body down quick, right? They're not running backs. And I do think they have a good line. It's just like their line last year, I think, was ranked top 5. But saying that to say, part of that is because you have a mobile quarterback who's been staying healthy, right, and being able to avoid sacks, etc. James Cook has been able to run the ball, and they do have that continuity. But saying that to say, they're not gonna without that running back there. So here's the thing: they took away a lot of his big time receiving weapons, and he made these other receivers better. You can't take a bunch of weapons away from a quarterback and say you have a good line, you have you, and we're going to make it work, right? Like we got to see how these receivers develop still, right? They added more young receivers. They don't have another running back that I would trust to start for them for 17 games besides James Cook if he's not there. Again, there's some free agents, but I don't believe they're going to bring the value to the Bills that somebody who knows that system would. So having, again, I think Saquon, Derrick Henry, et cetera. Like there's been a few guys that have kind of been bringing back the running back market. And again, James Cook is not on the level of a Saquon or a Derrick Henry, but he's a tier below him, right? He would be the best running back on at least 20, 25 teams in the NFL. So I think like while you have talent like that, you have to maximize the windows you have because the window's not going to be open forever. We're kind of seeing that with the Bengals right now. They had this window open. This defense didn't look like it needed to look. Right now, the Bills are in about as good of a position as they could be in, salary cap wise, offensively, defensively, etc. And to not do with like what the Steelers are doing, like, hey, we're going to go all in. We're going to be trying to compete. In my mind, is crazy because while you do have Josh Allen, your window is going to be open, right, to an extent. But guess what? There's going to be another quarterback, right? There's going to be C.J. Stroud. You got Bo Nix. You got maybe one day it'll click for Justin Herbert. I doubt it, but maybe it will, right? I trust their coach. And you got Lamar Jackson. You got Pat Mahomes, right? There's a lot of young quarterbacks in the AFC. So there's no guarantee Josh Allen will be one of the kings of the AFC forever. Now, if I had to bet money, I think he would be. But I'm just saying that to say you have this window open now. You've let a lot of these older players go so you can free up some money to pay people. Pay James Cook. They can pay him. You don't got to pay him like you pay Derrick Henry, et cetera. I'm not saying that, but he can get himself a raise that he feels comfortable with. And then it shows your team that if you take care of the team, you're a hard worker, et cetera, we're going to take care of you. And he hasn't been a problem in Buffalo. That's somebody that they might as well go ahead and give that back to.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not trying to say that James Cook is like some absolute God tier running back. I would say he's above average. He's good to great. My argument for James Cook is we've seen a lot of people line up in the backfield for Buffalo under Sean McDermott. Never seen anybody with the success that James Cook has had for that team. I think an investment in James Cook, in my mind, is an investment in Josh Allen.
100%.
So if you guys want to keep Josh playing at the level that he's playing at for a long, long time, pay James Cook. Don't put it all on Josh. In other news, we're going to stay up in the North, but we're going to switch back to the AFC. Bengals are finally getting some stuff done. They were finally able to get their first round draft pick, Jamar Stewart, under contract after a bunch of drama around, semantics semantics isn't the right word, under some very peculiar language that isn't common in any other rookie contract. There was debate over guaranteeing money and the Bengals being able to basically negate guaranteed money in the event that Jamar Stewart found himself in any compromising situation, which would be considered, conduct detrimental to the league, that the Bengals would no longer be responsible for it, portions of that guaranteed money, which has never been done historically in the NFL. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's also one of the things that if you're going to be in a league where there aren't fully guaranteed contracts the way it is in, soccer in the European League, basketball in the NBA, or even in the MLB, right? There's some inherent risk. And both parties kind of take that on. Both player and team take that on where, the player, hey, you may sign this deal, but you may not see the end of it because either injury or because, hey, the team just decides we're going to move in a different direction. So you may not see all the end of that deal. But then the team has to assume that some of that risk where it's like, hey, we're paying you for your performance, but understanding like you don't own me outside of the field. yeah, you're paying my contract and stuff like that, but you got to trust me that I'm going to be an adult. I'm going to be a professional and handle myself in the appropriate way and not find myself in these compromising positions. But every once in a while, as we've seen time and time again, these people will find themselves in these situations. What puzzles me is not like Shamar Stewart had like a bunch of cases from college that are following him where, you know, they needed to put this clause particularly in his contract where they were worried like, oh, he could potentially go off and go do something. My second thought about that is, if you had these concerns about a player, we're not going to say Shamar Stewart, but any player that you're drafting, why would you draft him in the round?
Right. I agree 100%. I think it was a weird hill to try to die on, or to almost die on. Because Soup, think about this, bro. I just looked it up to make sure I wasn't tripping. $18.97 million over 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. That's total guaranteed money. Like the contract's fully guaranteed, right? And it has a $10 million signing bonus. The rest of that's prorated over the next 3 years. But we're talking about less than half of what the top pass rushers are making in one season over 4 years. So you guys are bugging about that. It just kind of shows how they're doing business. And the second thing is something that you just said, like Shamar Stewart does not have a history of having problems off the field, right? It'd be different if he's had, academic issues, a bunch of off the field issues, especially now because some of the off the field issues for some players have turned into some really big things. But it's not like he has those things. He hasn't had a history of that. I would 100% be on the Bengal side if he had a history of, got in trouble, he's been fighting, DUIs, etc. Then all right, I get it. And if they're saying that the talent is worth taking the risk, but these are the stipulations, but he hasn't had that. And the fact that he's been willing to put in the work, and the fact that the stuff is going on with Trey Hendrickson just lets you know. I mean, yes, he's showing up because he wanted to avoid that fine, but you have players that want to play for these teams, right? They perform, the ownership doesn't want to pay them. If they don't perform, they get cut. So there has to be some kind of balance. Like, and I think as a rookie, the average length of an NFL career is 3.5 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. So to guarantee this man a first round pick that you said of everybody available right now at this point, we think this is the best person on the board who fits the need that we definitely have. They have a huge need there, right? And they got the deal done the way it was going to get done without that language anyway. So to delay his progress of rookie minicamp, training, all this stuff, right, because of a holdout when the deal ended up being a normal deal anyway, is absolutely bananas to me. I'm glad they did get it done. I just think it was like the Bengals are going to Bengal, and that's going to be why they don't win a Super Bowl for a while, right? It's like you got to conduct yourself like a team that wants to win. And when they went in and said, okay, we're going to re-sign our two best receivers, we're signing Joe Burrow, we're doing this and that. They're actually signing Noah Fant. They just signed Noah Fant last week. When you're making these moves offensively, there has not been a team in NFL history to win with the number one offense with the last ranked defense, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at, even like the greatest show on turf. They didn't have the best defense that season, but they had a top 20 defense, right? And I'm saying that to say you fired your defensive coordinator, who was a good defensive coordinator, and he'll probably have the Colts humming, right? Lou Anaromo. Yep. You bring in a new coordinator who's a good defensive coordinator as well, but you're telling him we need edges. They still need it. Here's the thing: even if Shamar Stewart's there, even if Trey Hendrickson's there, and they're doing what they need to do, they still need another edge. That's not a position you can go into the season with two people and be good, because you have to be able to rotate people in. There's going to be situations where Trey Hendrickson is a phenomenal pass rusher. He's about an average run stuffer, right? There's going to be times you got to take him out and put somebody in there herself to run, and they don't have that depth because of the money that they put in on offense, right? So I just don't think that this made any sense when you're literally talking about in 4 years, less than half of what most of these pass rushers are making in one season, right? And if they pay Trey Hendrickson like they should, he's going to be making in 4 years about half of what Trey Henderson's going to be making, right? Even if Trey Henderson's giving him a deal, $36 million, he's going to be making less than that, right? Over 4. So I'm glad they got it done. I just think it was unnecessary. I'm curious to see how their defense is going to respond, how their team's going to respond. I just don't think the morale can be very high for your team when they're seeing how you're doing. So the fact that Joe Burrow commented on it a few times lets you know kind of where the locker room is with it, as that's the leader of that franchise. So we'll see. I'm definitely wishing them success. They're a fun team to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to the Broncos getting that rematch and running their fade when we play them again or whatever. But I just think that like there's a way to conduct business. You guys are, and again, he's one of the only owners that's not a billionaire, I believe, but he has enough money that they could have got that deal done, Trey Hendrickson's deal done, added some more pieces to that defense, and it not be an issue.
Yeah, listen. At the end of the day, whether he's a billionaire or not, right? Like this is a salary cap league. It's not like there is a franchise that's like, oh, they get to play with a different cap number than somebody else.
It's not like the Yankees and the Dodgers versus the Rockies and the Pirates or something.
Yeah. It's all about how you manage your contracts and things of that nature. So there's a finite amount of money that's available to everybody. How you choose to spend it and disperse that over your roster, that's your business. Bengals have always been known to penny pinch. This is one of those examples of them doing that where they're penny pinching. I don't understand why they would go ahead and try to penny pinch here. It doesn't make any kind of sense, whether it's, on your rookie deal or, with your veteran that's come in and he's done everything that you've asked him to do. And he's gone above and beyond. He went and led the league in sacks last year, and you guys won't even engage in conversation with him. That doesn't make any sense, knowing that you're going to need a defense because you can't afford to get into a shootout every single season. And if we want to talk about quarterbacks that don't finish the season and can't be healthy, I made that comment about Dak. As much as I love Joe Burrow and I love watching him play, we have to be fair and keep it even. Joe Burrow, outside of the Super Bowl season, has not finished the season.
Right.
So you're investing a lot into that side of the ball that I would argue does not go if Joe Burrow is not under center. Like, who's next up after Joe? It's going to make the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase contracts irrelevant.
100%.
If he's not under center. You know what's going to keep your guys in the fight? If Joe has to go miss any kind of time, having a defense that can keep the score down.
And a running game.
Game's close. Yeah. So, again, the Cowboys, the Bengals, outside looking in, if I'm a player and I'm looking, hey, where's the next move for me in my career? Those are two franchises that I'm trying to avoid, especially if I'm trying to get a bag, because the way they do business is strange.
Absolutely.
Cool. So we talked a lot about we talked a lot about contracts and holdouts and things of that nature. Here's what I do want to talk about for a second, man. What is happening in Miami right now? This is a team that it feels very all over the place, but they lost 2 starting linemen in the span of like 48 hours. One of them had to be, helicopter medevaced off the field. And this is an offensive line that I think you and I will agree was not great to begin with a quarterback that also was questionable trying to make it through a season. A run game, which outside of running stretches and tosses, like, what are we doing? So
yeah, I don't know, and it sucks. Like every year, there's a team. Like last year was the 49ers. A couple years back, it was the Broncos. Right, every year there's a team that gets hit with the injury bug. Tua's been consistently not healthy, and again, he's been healthy 1 year. We're hoping that continues. But losing as much as they lost on the line. The injuries they have online, shout out to our brother Doug, man. We love Doug and all that, but it's going to be a tough season, I think, if you're a Dolphins fan. And there's only so many men. That's the thing. Is like the next man up mantra is a thing, but there's a reason that you have these guys starting. Everybody can't be a starter, right? So, again, they've been able to develop a few guys. Their line has been the most. The thing under their head coach Mike McDaniels that they haven't been able to consistently develop is linemen, right? They spend a lot of capital on linemen, so losing linemen isn't a good thing. When you have a Tua, right, it's not like you have a quarterback like a Ben Roethlisberger back there who will play through a broken femur or whatever the case may be, right? Or Brett Favre where his ankle's jacked up, bleeding, all his other crap, and he's playing through it. Tua has a history of concussions going back to college. So you have to be investing in that to keep them healthy and keep him healthy. And while I do applaud them for taking swings and adding to their offensive line, they don't have enough depth. They have the Tyreek Hill thing, right? Their locker room after that, like Tua addressed it, man. Like they asked him about it, and he says, he's working to earn the trust of the team back, etc. But that clearly was an issue. So there's only so much you could do. I think Mike McDaniels is a brilliant coach, but this is going to be a year that if this team doesn't perform the way that the ownership is anticipating, and he's been a pretty patient owner, I could see him being on the hot seat, which is unfortunate for as good of a coach as he is, having some of these injuries and some of that stuff. And hopefully they get it figured out defensively. Retaining their D tackle, that young D tackle. I'm having a escape of his name. Let me look really quickly. I think is a good step in that direction, right? But at the end of the day, they need some continuity on the offensive line, and that's been escaping them for a while, and that's something that's been escaping them for Zach Sealer. So I do apologize, Zach Sealer, but he's been consistent, 50, 60 tackles, 10 sacks, etc. But again, they don't have enough move. They don't have enough people on that team. You look at this, and I've just pulled it up just to kind of double check, right? Tua, their highest paid person, has missed some time, right? Tyreek Hill has missed time. Jalen Waddle has missed time, right? Minka has been relatively healthy, but he has missed some time. Bradley Chubb, who they got from the Broncos, that's their fourth highest paid player or fifth highest paid player. He's missed time, right? Austin Jackson has missed time. So you look at probably their top 7 highest paid people have all missed some time, significant time. And I just don't know, what they're going to do. They don't have enough depth. They're a team right now that does not have enough depth to weather like losing several offensive linemen. Most teams don't have that. There's a couple right now that I could say do, but they're not one. So I'm just kind of curious how they're going to grind through that, who they're going to find in this preseason that's going to be able to reinforce that team.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You said Bradley Chubb, and I forgot he was over there. I really did. And I think that kind of just speaks to what Miami hasn't been able to accomplish, because Bradley Chubb was a name when he was in Denver.
Yeah.
I don't see the same thing happening over in Miami. But anyway, that's enough picking on Miami for now. We'll come back to picking on them later. I have to be transparent with you, man. This next thing is close to personal to me, and it's infuriating. And Matt Stafford going into year 17. Sean McVay, admittedly, he says, "Hey, I probably said more than I should have said before. I had all the information," which is classic Sean McVay speak. It's not even coach speak. It's just Sean McVay speak. We're used to it as fans at this point. But he had said Matt would be ready to go this week for training camp. And now those plans have changed. They're going to just take it, day by day, week by week. He keeps emphasizing that he has no concerns about Stafford's ability to start this season. But again, if you follow the Rams the way that I follow the Rams since under McVay, they are terrible at telling the truth about the health status of their players, particularly their star players.
Right.
We've been through this with Todd Gurley. We went through this with Matt Stafford before. We've been through it with Cooper Kupp. Like, we've been through it with Puka. Like, you name it. Jalen, we've been through it enough times to know that when Sean McVay speaks about an injury, if he's saying, "Hey, we're not concerned about it," you should be concerned, because it's probably going to be something significant. And for all of the good things that the Rams have done this offseason, for all of the things that we're excited about in this upseason, like Matthew Stafford not being on the grass week 1 is going to be a problem. Matthew Stafford not being able to be under center at any particular point in time is going to be a problem. Granted, I have a lot more faith this year than I have in previous years with their backup quarterback situation with Jimmy Garoppolo, which, I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo fan, but I've seen what Jimmy Garoppolo is capable of if you get enough talent around him, right? He's been to Super Bowls, okay? He's been to Super Bowls, and not like just on the bench. Like, he's led a team to a Super Bowl, been a contributing factor to that. So we do have some talent behind Matthew Stafford. But as a Rams fan, I didn't sign up for the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. I signed up for the Matt Stafford experience, especially if we're going to give him another contract, right? We ended up giving him some more money. We're going to do it year over year. And it's not chump change. It's not pennies. And again, this is not taking away anything from Matt Stafford. I have a bunch of Matt Stafford jerseys. I love Matt Stafford. I wish he was younger so we could have more time with him, because I'm honestly enjoying the time, but it is frustrating. Here we are again, another offseason. If it's not an elbow, it's a back. And Matt Stafford took a lot of abuse in Detroit. And, hey, when you're 25, 26, you come back a little bit. Year 17, you're 30, what, 37, 38? Like
37, yep.
Yeah, man. Like the body just doesn't respond the same way. I mean, heck, I just turned 36 a few weeks ago, and I can tell you I don't do anything near as physical as football. And even, getting out the bed in the morning, some days it just don't feel right.
Yeah, sometimes you sneeze and your neck is jacked up for a couple days at 30. Like we were both 36, but I think with Matt Stafford, man, he's been somebody who plays through a lot. He did take a lot of abuse in Detroit. That's something fair. Like he did not have the line that they have now. They have probably the second best offensive line behind the Philadelphia Eagles right now, and you can argue it's the first. Like however you want to put that order, I'm not going to argue with anybody. But saying that to say the Rams don't have that right now. He's week to week. He is a tough man. It's not like the Rams line is terrible, but I think he'll be okay. It's just how you need that somebody that you need at the end of the season. He balls out, right? He's gonna absolutely ball out. He's shown what he can do in the playoffs. He's shown how he can elevate talent. They have Devontae Adams now. They got Puka Nacua, right? Their team is something that's going to look dangerous. And while Jimmy Garoppolo can step in for a few games if necessary, right? That's not somebody that you want starting a whole year, right? I don't think at this point that's somebody that you want starting a whole year. Now he is one of the better backups in the NFL, in my opinion. He's one of the better backups, but he's also had health issues, right? So having a backup that has health issues isn't the end of the world when you have a quarterback like Matt Stafford, who has been relatively healthy, will fight through some stuff and still ball out. But saying that to say, Jimmy Garoppolo, as talented as he is, I don't think that's somebody you want playing 10 games for you because there's a very high likelihood you're going to have to play your third string quarterback because there's some point he'll get hurt. He has his. That's the only reason. That's the big reason he's not a starter in the league at this point is because of those injuries. Because he does have the talent to be a starter. But saying that to say, man, I think Stafford will be okay. I think they're handling it the right way. Normally, the starters in LA, which I don't always love this philosophy. I do like the, callous in your starters a little bit more, etc. They traditionally don't play much in the preseason anyway, or play at all. So I think they'll have some time before the season starts to get him together. But again, as long as Matthew Stafford can be there, I wouldn't be terribly concerned if I was a Rams fan if he misses a couple games early. If the trade-off is he's going to be there later on in the season. Because that's really when you need them. They went toe-to-toe with the Eagles. They were a few plays away from being in a Super Bowl against the Chiefs as opposed to the Eagles, right? It's not like the Eagles bullied them like they did the Chiefs, right? Which I was happy they bullied the Chiefs. So they have a team that's competitive. They have these young guys that are coming back a year more experienced defensively. Jared Verse is an absolute monster. He said to call the police on Aaron Donald if he sees him walking in the facility. But other than that, that team is poised to be a Super Bowl contender. If I had to pick a NFC West champion this year, it would probably be the Rams with Matthew Stafford being healthy. But again, if he has to miss a little bit of time early to ensure he'll be there at the end of the season, I would happily make that trade. But you're just hoping that the back issue isn't something that he can't work through relatively quickly before the season starts.
Yeah, and that's where we're at with it too, man. I think don't get me wrong, I don't want to lose any game. I want to go undefeated, and I think any true fan wants to go undefeated. Nobody likes losing. I hate losing, but if you told me, hey, I could trade 3 losses at the beginning of the season and to have Matthew Stafford available for a stretch run to a possible championship, yeah, I'll take that all day. Right. I'll take that all day, every day. And we've seen this wouldn't be the first year. As a matter of fact, if it started out rough, it would be the third year in a row that we've seen the Rams start off really, really rough, get hot, start figuring stuff out in the middle, and get hot down the stretch and make a playoff run. That's not something that you want to live and die by. I'm pretty sure that I've lost significant years off my life watching this team. But that's neither here nor there. We did get football this week. Granted, it wasn't great football. It wasn't pretty football. But we did get football this week. The Hall of Fame game that featured the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Chargers. A drubbing of the Detroit Lions by the Los Angeles Chargers. And Mike, I guess my question is, the score ended in a whopping 34-7.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, no starters were harmed in the making of this game.
Right.
If you're a Lions fan, or even just objectively, do you think that there's some pause for concern, or is there, if you're with the Lions, or are you just writing this off as, hey man, it's preseason, and it ain't even preseason? It's like the preseason to the preseason.
Yeah, no. If I'm a Lions fan, I'm not concerned about that at all. Again, you're working through things. A lot of the guys that played won't even be on the roster. They'll likely, some of them will be on the practice squad. But a lot of those guys, again, aren't going to go crazy. I mean, the fact that, and again, this is no shade to Trey Lance. Maybe he's starting to figure it out, but Trey Lance looked like a Hall of Fame quarterback playing against his Lions team in the preseason. That lets you know how irrelevant the game is, because Trey Lance has looked confused the whole time he's been in the NFL. And maybe he did, figure something out there with the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's he's a former quarterback, a great coach. He does well with quarterbacks, right? Saying that to say, maybe he figured something out there, but I wouldn't take much of it, because you didn't have starters playing. You most of these guys that are playing, including special teams, etc., aren't even going to make the roster. Again, it's literally the preseason to the preseason. I put less stock in the Hall of Fame game than any game in the entire season. Preseason, I think, does mean something, but this fourth game for them, or whatever the case may be, I don't think it means a lot either way. It shows you the Lions have a little bit of depth, having people that have been in that system, or the Chargers rather, that have been in that system, that kind of knows what they're doing, that can step in. But I don't think it shows you much. We knew that the Lions are going to have to add a few pieces. After all the things that they lost, losing Frank Ragnow, etc. But I don't think this game, I wouldn't lose much sleep over it if I was a Lions fan.
It's one of those situations where, man, I'm kind of straddling the fence with this one, where, I want to just, throw the game in the trash because it's the Hall of Fame game and, like, who cares? But at the same time, I think there's correlation here. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's causation, but I definitely think there's something to be read into the fact that they had to replace their offensive and defensive coordinators from last year this year. And you're not exactly going against starters for the Chargers either. So why is it that you were unable to get your team to respond on any facet of the game? Like, it calls into question, what are the coordinators doing? Now, granted, nobody knows what we're doing in the preseason, right? Like, they don't disclose that. There's a lot of things, like you said, that teams are just experimenting with, working through, wanting to test out and see. So we don't know what buttons the Lions were trying to push, what they were trying to show, what they weren't trying to show, what they were hoping to achieve with that game. But I just look at it as is this a harbinger of things to come? Is it going to be maybe rougher than we anticipated, even when you have the starting talent? Because it's probably going to be some variation of the same system that they've been running for the last few years under Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. But, are there going to be some hiccups as everybody's adjusting to, the new coordinators who are still internal, right? Like, they're still internal promotions and things of that nature. So it's not like people aren't familiar with it, but it's just from a continuity standpiece. I think I can't just throw the whole game out, because you said something that makes just too much sense. Trey Lance has looked like a deer in headlights the entire time that he's been in the NFL. And he did look like a Hall of Fame quarterback against the Detroit Lions, who, if nothing else, under Dan Campbell, have been feisty, and I just didn't see it. I didn't see lions. I saw kittens for the Hall of Fame game. And, people can kill me. It's the Hall of Fame game. I get it. But to me, I think there's something there. There's something, like, Trey Lance is looking like he's going to be second string. He's going to be QB2 for this offense. And then DJ, you need to get a job. Like, he's probably gone. Hendon Hooker, his lack of development, I think, needs to be discussed more with the Detroit Lions, because they actually went back to Teddy Bridgewater for their playoff run as their backup. And then Kyle Allen got the majority of the snaps over Hendon Hooker. So what is the, not necessarily succession plan, but, like, what's the plan if Jared Goff goes down there? Do you trust Kyle Allen or Hendon Hooker for this team that is a perennial, like, playoff contender right now?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, that's a big thing, like you said, with Hendon Hooker. The other portion of that is, he's 27. He's 27 now. He was an older rookie. So I think when they drafted him, their hope was high floor. He had a lower ceiling. He's a little bit athletic, but I just think that offense has been very complicated. We've heard about they're keeping similar offenses they had. obviously different coordinator, but we heard how Caleb's struggling to pick it up with the Bears right now because he's kind of overloading him with stuff. So again, I don't know. I just think maybe Hendon Hooker hasn't been where he needs to be as an older quarterback. Again, it's like that Brandon Weeden thing, and I'm not trying to compare Hendon Hooker to Brandon Weeden because that was atrocious, but his age was the same about coming out of college. He's an older guy. There's not probably much development left. And Jared Goff, while he did re-up, I want to say last year on his contract or maybe the year before, he has a few years left. Like he's not even 30, but at the same time, getting if he does get hurt, and I think that's with most teams. There's not a lot of teams where your quarterback can get hurt and you're in a trust what's coming behind it. Now the benefit for the Lions is Jared Goff's been relatively healthy and they have one of the best offensive lines. They have a phenomenal running game. So I think they'd be able to manage it with pretty much any quarterback back there. But saying that to say they do want to see a jump out of somebody they invested some draft capital in. And I think Kyle Allen, worst case, can get you through a few games if you do have an injury with Jared Goff or, in the game situations. If, you're up by a lot, you just need to get out there with a W. I think he could do that. And hopefully Hendon Hooker over the course of the season can take that next step so he can do that same thing as well in the event something does happen. But Jared Goff has shown to be a player in his NFL career. I think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks, in my opinion, in the NFL. And I think with Dan Campbell, as long as Dan Campbell's still there, they still got the offensive line. I think they're going to be able to be competitive.
Cool, man. But look, it's been a while since we've done this, but I want to bring back out of pocket because I think we have some out of pocket items to discuss this time around. So I'm gonna let you go first. You tell me where you're going with this.
Well, where I'm going to go is one of my favorite players in Broncos history, someone that we all generally refer to as Unc. Out of pocket, good brother. Not only did he have to settle for undisclosed amount, which the estimates have been between 10 and 20 million, so we'll say it's 20. Not only that, but because of that, lost $100 million deal with Spotify on the podcast, right? That decision making when he gives us all this guidance from his grandma and his grandpa that they gave him, and to make a decision like that, where the next day, Sue, this is just what I know. So somebody would have had to arrest me or something, brother. Like after his settlement, the next day, the lady Gabby or whatever her name is announced her retirement, right? So like the amount of money he gave her was such an amount that she could retire at 25 or whatever the case is. That's completely out of pocket, brother. You're in your 50s. Go find you somebody closer to that. We know all this different stuff happening, man. But like at the end of the day, man, messing up the bag like that, $120 million that you lost, guaranteed, like $20 million out of your pocket and $100 million that you didn't get. And while he might get that deal again, that doesn't make up for the $100 million he lost right now, right? Him and Ocho. Right. So that's out of pocket to me, brother. Find you somebody else. Even Miss B Nasty said in his comments, she got him. So hit her up or something, man. But I don't know.
Well, we haven't even talked about the fact that ESPN cut ties with him as well. Mm-hmm. So he's losing money on that front too. I think the most out of pocket thing about this is like, brother, Cat Williams told you what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate to bring it back up, but Cat told you what's going to happen messing around with them, with those particular women. Mm-hmm. He told you they will have you out here, losing all sorts of money. And turns out Cat was right, bro.
That was the realest interview in the history of the world. So hopefully that interview could pay for that settlement.
Yeah, and just call up Michelle. I don't know who she is, but call her up. Like we all heard you talking about her in the live stream. Like call her up. Don't go with these OnlyFans girls, man. Like my brother Mike said, you're too old to be playing this game. It's dangerous out here, and they're out here gold digging on you. So another thing that I want to talk about that's out of pocket. I want to talk about Christian Wilkins crapping out in Vegas, bro. Like. This was somebody that we talked about at the beginning of the season or the beginning of the offseason, like, hey, this is the Raiders defensive line is shaping up to be something that's formidable. Mm-hmm. We know that he was rehabbing from an injury. The dismissal, I think, came as a shock to everybody that was outside of the organization. And there wasn't a lot of details initially. It was just like, hey, the Raiders are like, hey, we're good on you. And we didn't know what was happening. Had he suffered a setback in his recovery? Was there like some pending legal stuff that hadn't come out that they were just trying to get ahead of? Well, interesting things have come out since his release from the Raiders. Number one of them being that Christian Wilkins might be a little zesty. That the reason why the Raiders were cutting ties with him is because Pete Carroll said, "Listen, you're not going to be in the locker room kissing my players on the head and stuff. Like, just stop all of that mess." And teammates have since come out, kind of backing these reports that have been coming out about, hey, he's an interesting character in the locker room, and he was engaging in some behavior that didn't make everybody feel as comfortable as you would like to be in the locker room. So for that, I just got to say, bro, that's out of pocket. One, why are you kissing grown men? Two, why are you messing up the bag like that?
Yeah, man. I think two things with this is one I'm gonna throw in there is that 2016 Clemson locker room with him and Deshaun Watson had to be one of the freakiest locker rooms in the history of college football. That Florida team give them a run with all the criminals they had with Aaron Hernandez, etc. But that's one part. But the other part is, man, like you can't mess up your bag being funny. And the fact that like Ryan Clark said this, right? And normally, I mean, you both been in locker rooms, right? Like normally, if there's issues, you're going to police it, handle in the locker room. The fact that this is something that couldn't get handled in the locker room that had to go to HR, like it literally went up to HR when locker rooms are known to be able to handle things, lets you know that it was out of bounds, completely out of pocket, as well as the thing that they were trying to cut him for or did cut him for originally, and they did file a grievance or whatever. So we'll see how that's resolved. But he had an injury, and the team wanted him to get a surgery earlier so he could be back. He opted not to, which is every right. It's his body. He can, choose not to get that surgery, but end up not healing the way he wanted to based on the initial, his second opinion he got from his doctor. It had to go get that surgery anyway, and that allowed the Raiders to void that money for him and cut him. And I think that's somebody who his talent on the field, if he didn't have some of these off the field locker room shenanigans that we're just not hearing about, if that wasn't a thing, they probably would have, worked with him on that, and he probably would have been back. But you can't have issues off the field or in the locker room causing chemistry issues and with a no nonsense coach. We know Pete Carroll's a player's coach, but he does have a structure. He does have discipline, especially when it comes to defense, his defense. For that to be an issue like this, where it's getting you cut as one of the, in my opinion, second best defensive tackle in the NFL besides Chris Jones historically, it's kind of a completely out of pocket.
Yeah. And then my last item for out of pocket, bro, and don't attack me for it. Prime time's health, bro. I love Coach Prime. Okay. I appreciate how transparent he is with folks. I appreciate like how he tries to uplift kids and just uplift people in general. There's a thing that, and by the way, I'm happy that Prime is doing better and that his health is there, because this is a light topic, but this is a serious subject that something serious happened to him. For those of you that aren't plugged into what's going on, is Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, is battling bladder cancer. He talked about it in an presser at UC Boulder, University of Colorado Boulder, talking about, how it's one of the worst experiences of his life, having to fill out a will, not knowing if he was going to be there the next day or stuff like that. Where it gets out of pocket for me, though, is there's a certain level of transparency that I think is appreciated, and then there's too much information, and we crossed into out of pocket too much information. You can't be at your press conference talking about, I can't control my pee anymore. I pissed myself. I got a bag. There's going to be porta potties on the sideline. You're going to see me in the porta potty on the sideline this season. My girlfriend had to hold my bag. His girlfriend, by the way, is Karuchi Tran, who, if you don't know, it's one of Chris Brown's baby mamas.
Generational bag getter.
Yeah, generational bag getter. That's another thing. Like he might just want to quit while he's ahead. Maybe call up his buddy Shay and see what's going on with that. But like, it's just out of pocket to me, bro. Like, I get it. You want to be transparent. You want to let people know what's going on with you. And he's always kind of lived his life out loud like that. I could have done without knowing about the piss bag and what you can and can't do in terms of controlling your bowels and your bladder and stuff like that, brother. Like, that's out of bounds.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We didn't need it all that good, brother. Definitely shout out to Coach Prime. Hope is healing up well and all that, but we didn't need to know about that.
Yeah, no, I wish him well in the future for his health and his road to recovery. I wish him and the Buffs good luck this season, and everything that they're doing up there at that program. But yeah, let's keep it football. Um, Finally, man, keeping it football. Mike, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Give me your pick for the worst and the best team in the NFL this year, and
Oh
why.
man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. We talked about it earlier a little bit, but I do think there's a potential for the Dolphins to be the worst team in the NFL this year. I'm hoping that doesn't happen for our brother Doug's sake, but I think they're in that conversation for sure. The best team, I think, going into this year, it might be an easy way out, but the Eagles did lose a lot. They absolutely did. But what they didn't lose is their offensive line, Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts, um, and their defense coming back. Usually that second year of Vic Fangio's system, while they might not be the best defense this year, they'll be a top three. I think they have an argument to be the best team and go back to back. So I think, unfortunately, it might be the Dolphins. There's another team I think could be in the running with them. And I think the best team, I'll do the easy pick and take the Philadelphia Eagles.
Look, man, this is why me and you are brothers, because we're simpatico. Yeah, the worst. I felt it for a long time, and this is before they started losing linemen and people started retiring and all of this stuff. I felt it for a long time this offseason, so I'm not going to back away now just because you chose it first. Miami, I think, is going to be the worst team in football this year. I think you're going to be a hard watch. I think Mike McDaniel. I know earlier you were giving him a lot of props about how good he is as a coach. I'm not convinced that he's good as a coach. I've seen enough of him now where I think he's more Josh McDaniel than he is head coach, where he's just a really gifted play caller, somebody who understands offenses, and he can give you a lot of cool things. But I don't know if he's head coach material. Just the way that he's kind of managed that team and since his tenure there, and just the lack of results with the sheer amount of talent that they've had and how many different swings and opportunities that they've taken, right? Utilizing draft picks, making big splash trades and stuff like that. And it hasn't resulted in anything. Now, granted, there was no world where I thought, oh, Miami can go win the Super Bowl. But I just feel like they should have been a lot more competitive during his tenure than what they've been. Now, you could say there's a lot of unexpected things that happened, like Tua's injuries, the Tyreek stuff going on, Jalen Waddle not being as durable, their inability to really establish a run game outside of, gadget plays and stuff like that. The defense, who we thought was going to be the strength of that team once he took over, absolutely melting. So I think there's a lot of reasons for them to not just be the worst team in their division, but to be the worst team overall in the NFL. And then with the best team in the NFL, dude, again, we're in lockstep. I think it's the easy answer, of course, because they're the defending champions. But when you really take a look at everything, sure, they lost the offensive coordinator, but they are retaining Vic Fangio. They're promoting somebody internally for their offensive coordinator. Jalen Hurts is another year under the trigger, right? Like under center, you've got a line that is continuing to gel. There's a lot of continuity there. And then you've got Saquon coming back. You've got all your wide receivers coming back. You've got your DBs coming back, your young DBs and your young defensive players. You have all of those guys coming back for their second year in the NFL. It's going to be good. You've got all sorts of people that were not healthy coming back. And then you drafted extremely well again. We ended up running into situations where, again, we're like, how is Philadelphia allowed to get these players in the draft? And on paper, they just look like the best team in football.
100%.
Now, I want to put a disclaimer out there that when I say best team in football, that doesn't mean I believe that you're going to win a Super Bowl. I think they are the strongest candidate to win the Super Bowl. But as we all know, like winning the Super Bowl is something difficult to do. Doing a Super Bowl back to back, very, very hard to do, especially because now, right, you're no longer the hunter, you're the hunted. You're going to get everybody's absolute best shot. And with the extended season, right, you've played a lot of games. It is a short period between Super Bowl and week one. You don't get the same amount of recovery as people that didn't have to play in the playoffs, people that didn't go as far as the playoffs. Like, and there's a lot of variables that go into it, luck being one of them, right? Being able to stay healthy. Now, Philadelphia under Nick Sirianni has been one of the healthier teams, especially when it comes to the offensive line. And even when they haven't been, right, the depth that they seem to have at dang near every position has been astounding. But I think they are probably top to bottom roster wise. I think one of the most complete. Howie Roseman, one of the best GMs, if not the best GM in the NFL. He's going to continue to be competitive all the way up through the trade deadline, trying to do everything that he can to make that team as competitive as they can be, and make sure that they're getting back into the Super Bowl this year. So I know easy answer there, but give me an argument for another team. I don't think you can.
Yeah, and I'll give you just on the worst team thing. Just thinking about a little bit more, bro. Aside from the Dolphins, I do have some major questions for the Saints. Derek Carr retiring, right? Their quarterback battle is going to be Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shue. I can't even say his name right because we don't know what he's going to do yet. Who was in college for a long time? Like a lot of people say, he's the most pro ready, but we'll have to see. Their receiver room again, they re-upped on that. Their cap room situation. I think they're in a situation where in a year or two, I mean, they have 2 first-round draft picks, I believe, going into next year. So they're in a situation where they could be a quarterback away and some other stuff and develop that. But this season, man, that's a team that could be competing with the Dolphins for a bad team with an entirely new staff, new defensive coordinator, new head coach, new quarterbacks, right? New receiver room, some receivers in there, etc. They still have Cam Jordan, who's a dog, but he's like 34 or something like that. So that's a team that I could easily see, maybe a few things happen and they'd be good, or a few things happening and they'd be the worst team in the NFL this year. So that's another one I would throw out there.
Yeah, listen, those are all solid arguments. I can't describe it, man. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong because obviously we don't know if you're right. We don't know if you're wrong until the season plays out. But there's just something in my gut that tells me the Saints ain't going to be as bad as people think they're going to be. Like, when I think about the Dolphins, I get sick to my stomach because I really think we're going to witness some god-awful football. The Saints, I don't know if it's maybe because I just don't have the expectations because there's not a lot of brand names on that roster right now. Maybe that's what it is that I'm just downplaying what's there because I just don't know what's there. But I also look at their division too, and I think, yeah, Carolina, Tampa, Atlanta, I think all 3 of those teams are vastly better than the Saints. But I also look at that division as because they haven't had a lot of stability outside of Tampa. Like Atlanta hasn't had a lot of stability in terms of their wins. Everybody knows Carolina hasn't had a lot of stability in terms of their wins as recent,
especially because of the ownership.
Especially because of the ownership. Like, I do think that if Kellen Moore can be a competent head coach and again, this is one of those guys like we've seen he's a decent coordinator. Does that translate to the next phase? Did the staff that he built up there, are they able to do enough, especially with questions under center? And you never know what's going to happen between now and the start of the season in terms of who they might we know there's going to be a lot of talent that's going to get cut. There's going to be desperation for people that show out in the preseason that maybe end up getting another opportunity as you didn't think we're going to get opportunity. So don't be surprised if one of these journeyman quarterback or somebody like a Jameis Winston. And I know Saints fans are like, no, thank you. We've seen enough Jameis Winston. Like, don't be surprised if Jameis finds his way back to New Orleans at some point this season, just because they may need somebody who knows how to sling the ball and has an arm. Like, with his laser, his laser vision correction that he had, maybe he can see the field a little bit better and throw a few less. I'm not going to lie. if nothing else, Jameis was exciting to watch when he played for the Browns the other year.
Absolutely.
Like, he played some compelling ball, some stuff that, just makes you scratch your head. But then there was some stuff that really made you drop your jaw and go like, wow. But that's just kind of what you get with Jameis. So I still think, I look at that Saints and I look at who's in their division. I'm like, yeah, they could sneak a few of those wins. They could sneak a few of those wins because outside of Tampa, those teams aren't solidified. And even I have a few questions with Tampa going into this season, not because of their roster, but how much of a difference is it going to make not having Liam Cohen there to coordinate that offense? Like, him and Baker were really, really tight. And now with him taking over the head coaching job for Jacksonville, like, is that offense going to see a step back? Mike Evans, as good as he is, he's another year older. Chris Godwin, we don't know what's going on with him. He's been hurt the last couple of times. So we'll see what happens as the season progresses. Either way, I'm super, super excited to cover the league this year. I know there's going to be lots and lots of parody and, different storylines for us to talk about. But we'll have to save some of that for next time, as this one's been a long one. Mike, before we get up out of here, anything you have to say?
No, man, I'm definitely excited for this season. Definitely excited for us to be able to get back to this on a more consistent basis, me and you. And I'm definitely excited as we're going into the traditional preseason after the Hall of Fame game. The last thing I do want to give a shout out, because we didn't do it today, and we'll probably talk about a little bit more, is shout out to all the people that did get inducted to the Hall of Fame this cycle. That's a huge deal, man. Sterling Sharp. Jared Allen, that's a big one. That dude was a terrorist for a long time in the league. But shout out to those guys. Shout out to everybody else we didn't name. And I do think this 26 class is shaping up to be one of the better classes we've seen in the last decade or so. With my favorite receiver of all time, Larry Fitzgerald. Definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, Drew Brees, on that next list. But shout out to those guys, because the game wouldn't be where it's at if it wasn't for them playing, for sure.
For sure, man. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys joining us on another episode of In the Pocket Podcast. Please make sure you hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. In the Pocket Podcast drop every single Monday during the football season. We'll catch you guys next time. Appreciate you.